Hi, my name is Andrew Wells with Executive Lines, Living Life on Purpose.
And I'm Matt Wilson, and we sit down with successful individuals who also live a life of purpose. The goal of this show is for you to hear their stories, to understand that they're not without challenge. They haven't not had obstacles that they've had to overcome, but we want you to hear the stories and be encouraged by the ways that they've been able to overcome these things through their faith.
And so we're here with Will Ainsworth. He's a state representative for Alabama and is running for lieutenant governor this fall. Now, outside of politics, he's a successful businessman and a leader in his local church community. He's the owner of Dream Ranch in Guntersville, Alabama, one of the most recognized sportsman lodges in the United States. This ranch includes a 2,000 acre of land and 14,000 square foot lodge. It is used for hunting, corporate retreats, weddings, and private events. The ranch is a huge success, often operating at full capacity, having to turn away business. Now, in this political career, Will has focused in keeping children safe in schools, proposed legislation to allow teachers to carry guns in schools, and he's also been a leader in ethics reform, signing the articles of impeachment against Robert Bentley and introducing strict term limits bill. Now, Will holds a marketing degree from Auburn University and currently resides in Birmingham with his wife and 3 children. Thank you, Will, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
Yeah.
Definitely glad to have you, and enjoyed getting to talk to you a couple minutes before we got started. And take us back to earlier in your career, how you ended up getting into business and how you got to this point that you're at now.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I got my degree in marketing from Auburn, and that's also where I met my wife. And while I was at Auburn, probably one of the biggest impacts had guy from Chick-fil-A, also CEO, and from Delta came in and really proposed the question, what are you doing to get ready, for after, you graduate? And one of the things they recommended was actually getting job experience while you're going to school. And so I did that, worked at Bancorp South and as a teller, and a lot of fun, getting to sell products there and learn about banking. I didn't really think banking was for me, and always had a vision of, potentially maybe starting my own business, and but didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so graduated from Auburn, and really just felt, really clearly, Kendall and I both, that, a call to ministry. And so we went into youth ministry at Grace Fellowship. We're a church plant in Briarwood up in the Marshall County area, and a small church, a couple hundred members type thing, and loved it, and it was great. My off days were Friday and Saturday, and still had a desire for business, and so started a business called Dream Ranch, a commercial hunting and fishing lodge. And when we started, it was small. I mean, we had a little bitty cabin that was maybe 800 square feet. People, if they wanted to come at Dream Ranch, had to stay in a hotel in town. Right. And so, like a lot of people starting a business, you start off small. And obviously, the Lord's blessed our business and fruits of our labor. But it's it was a lot of fun thinking back on those days and having to do everything, right? I mean, and doing a lot of that without a paycheck. So
I definitely understand that.
Yeah,
we can relate.
We don't like to do things without a paycheck.
Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of have. You don't know that when it starts until it starts happening.
Yeah.
So for many of you guys know, or maybe some of you guys don't, but he runs one of the largest successful expos. In Tennessee. Tell us about that, how you got there, and Dream Ranch.
Sure.
And there's a little bit of a story that you can probably share with the viewers. I'm sure they'll all be interested.
Absolutely. All right, so it's called the Tennessee Valley Hunting and Fishing Expo, which Tennessee Valley starts up in Tennessee and comes all the way through, like the Huntsville area down to Marshall County. So the expo is actually in Huntsville. And so it's
wow.
But
it says Tennessee Expo.
It's called Tennessee Valley.
Oh.
Yeah, Tennessee Valley. And so it's it's a lot of people, honestly, early on, if you're not from that area, a lot of people don't know where is the Tennessee Valley. But even on the news stations, it's always, Tennessee Valley. And so that's kind of just a general area up there. But so we it's a consumer trade show in the outdoor industry, and there's a really good hunting and fishing expo in Birmingham. There's another one in Montgomery. There's a really good one in Nashville and Atlanta. And what we realized, there wasn't one in North Alabama. And you have tons of, people like to fish. You have a lot of outdoorsmen. You have a lot of hunters. And just tons of outdoors, people in North Alabama. And so what we saw was an opportunity because there wasn't a trade show in North Alabama. And we had the perfect venue, the Von Braun Center. It's got over 100 and I think a little over 100,000 square feet of indoor, really nice space. And so we met with them about potentially doing it. And, it's one of those things when you start a business, you don't know how it's going to work out. I mean,
Right.
you spend, my background was marketing. And so, we had billboards, we did radio, we did TV, and we had a lot of cool celebrities come in. And so that first year, it's been about, I guess, 8 or 9 years ago. But we, y'all are probably familiar with the Duck Dynasty show. And so and I was familiar with them from Duck Commander, which was the show they had before that was strictly hunting. And so I'd reached out to a guy named Jace Robertson, which is one of the sons. That's Phil's son that's big into hunting, and asked him to come. And so that was back, it would have been the fall before we were doing the expo in the summer. And we got them booked, and, very, very reasonable rate. Now it's really expensive.
Right.
But at that point in time, it was great. And so we got them to come in. And then in the spring, all of a sudden, this little show called Duck Dynasty hits.
Right.
And it goes wild, ends up being the #1 show. And literally, when we opened the doors on that Friday, we had people lined all the way down the hall, all the way back, the other way, out the front door, get in. We didn't even know if anyone was going to show up. Because there had been people who tried to do an expo before, and they said, "Oh, you can't do an expo in Huntsville." And I said, "I don't really agree with that. I just don't think it was done right." And so, obviously, called a break there, and and then it turned out that one of the neat things about the Duck Dynasty guys is their faith. And I mean, we really just hit it off, because the thing I like about Jace is not only did he get up and do duck calling seminars and talk about the show, but he shared the gospel, right there in front of thousands of people. And so that first year, I think we had like 32,000 people attend, and we were just hoping maybe to have 5 or 10.
Wow.
And so, and it's just grown since then. It's a great business.
That's
and,
awesome.
It's a good thing for North Alabama. And, we also try to involve ministry and our faith in that. We do a worship service that I serve on the board of Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Okay.
I love sports and love the outdoors, so they come in and do a free service for everyone on Sunday morning. And then, that's turned out to be, a good thing. And so it's, but that's kind of the hunting and fishing expo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, it's interesting that you bring them up, because, one of the things that we really want to touch on is, character and, obviously godly principles and how that guides our lives. And, they're a perfect example of people that stood by their faith, and, they spoke out about the godly principles that they have, and ultimately they were persecuted.
Yeah.
So, you in the role that you're in now, running for lieutenant governor and serving in the state house, I mean, principle, character, morals, I mean, those are things that are constantly tested by, special interest groups and by the media and by your constituents. And how do you navigate that, in the face of, all the challenges that are constantly coming at you? How do you deal with that on a regular basis?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I try to keep short accounts with God. I mean, and what that means is make sure you're prayed up, that you're praying, diligently, that you stay in the Word, and then also that you got, people of accountability. I mean, one of the guys in the house that's been a great accountability partner to me is a guy named Rich Wingo. Played football at Alabama.
Awesome guy.
He is. And, so we're fortunate. I mean, we started a prayer caucus in Alabama that wasn't there before. We had a group of guys, and we try to just make sure we pray for each other, we hold each other accountable. It's just like anyone else, and like you do in business. I mean, you got to have accountability, because in Montgomery, it's a different environment in the fact that people are always wanting something from you, and they're always trying to get you to compromise, and they're always trying to get you to, maybe, oh, don't worry about your values. This is and so you got to have people that are going to make sure that you hold accountable, and but it ultimately boils down to, just like anything else, you've got to have integrity, and my integrity comes from my faith, and what I view as right is wrong comes from what the Bible says, and and so that's our guide, and I'm fortunate. I've got a lot of brothers and sisters in Christ that hold me accountable there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So being in the Senate, being in the House,
Yeah.
so, and you're running for lieutenant governor, tell me about how, because you were a youth pastor for a little bit,
Yeah.
and so you were leading children.
Yeah.
And so now you're in the House and then running for lieutenant governor. How do you, in your opinion, how do you feel like is the best way to lead everybody who wants to lead?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you look at the Bible, you look at how Christ, was a leader, the best way, I think, and this is for anybody in leadership, the best way to lead is to serve. And so, I think whatever it is, whether it's in business, I don't plan on just being a leader that just, tells people what to do. I mean, that's not going to work. I'm going to get out there and serve well. And if you do that, then people will follow and they'll respect you. And so, what we're trying to do as lieutenant governor, and I think what's unique about that position is you have the ability to shape the conversation for the entire state. You're the only statewide elected official in the Senate. You preside over the Senate. And with that, whether it's trying to stop gambling, whether it's trying to solve our workforce development problem, whether it's trying to solve problems that have plagued us for decades, you can shape the conversation. And I'm going to do that from a Christian worldview, and I think that's important, and I think it's powerful. I mean, just to be able to do that. But the key is, is how you serve is to make sure you're a servant and that you're actually serving. I think if you look at the biblical model, Christ certainly did a phenomenal job of that.
Well, I think that it is the best model in servant leadership. I've certainly, before I ultimately had heart change and realized that was the best way. I used to think that you had to, boss people around and tell them what they were supposed to do, and ultimately, just lead from a position of strength versus a position of humility. And I think that the world constantly teaches people that, the strength and the power and, crushing your opposition is the best way to do it. But, I've certainly found in my own life that when you lead with a servant heart, that it's so much better and people follow so much easier because you're treating them the way that they want to be treated.
And they respect you.
Yeah. But it's definitely a challenge because the world is constantly telling people to do it the other way.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So how do you maintain that? Somebody maybe thinking that you're a pushover, or somebody thinking that you're weak because you're really stronger because you're serving in a humble role. How do you continue to maintain that humility and that Christ-like example when the opposition is constantly coming at you with snares and daggers?
Ultimately, I serve an audience of one, which is I want to honor God. And so what happens with people is when you start worrying about, am I going to make this group mad or this interest group? And that's where you get distracted. Yeah. I think where you get off base. And so to me, it all goes back to why are you serving? And if you're doing that to honor God, obviously you're going to treat people with respect. You're going to love people and want to try to make a difference. And even if somebody has a different opinion, you're going to hear them out and then, try to educate them on your position and why you think that's better. And so I just think that's missing in Montgomery, right? Because right now in Montgomery, what happens is if you disagree, a lot of people try to destroy that person, and I think if you look at the biblical model of actually showing love to your enemies and praying for your enemies, it's so refreshing to people, they'll follow you. I really believe that. Yeah.
So I know your faith guides you, throughout your days, but you're a busy man.
Yeah.
I know our interaction, you're really busy. And so, and you're running a couple businesses, fairly large businesses, and now you're in government. How do you manage your day-to-day? Like, walk us through your day and how you're able to stay so focused on God. How do you spend time? Like, how do you make sure you keep that time with Christ?
Sure. Yeah, so it's about priorities. So, obviously, you got to make sure, and it varies, because right now my schedule's pretty hectic statewide. Yeah. But, it's even in the morning or late at night. I certainly try to make sure we spend time in prayer and, digging in the Word. And then the other thing, too, that, we haven't talked about is family, right? And so one of the things try to put a big emphasis on, I've got twin boys that are 8 and a daughter that's 6. And so I got a tremendous wife that is fortunately, she shares the same calling that.
You couldn't wait until they graduated?
Yeah, I know. It could have. It certainly wasn't anything I wanted to do, run for office now. But I think, it's definitely feel that when God calls you to do something, you got to respond. But I think it's about priorities. And so one of the things that, I made sure was a priority, and this is something Rich Wingo told me. He said, Will, no matter how busy you get, you've got one chance to make sure you have an impact on your children and, be involved. Make sure you coach your boys. And so one thing I'm not going to say proud of, but glad I'm doing is, when they're playing baseball right now, and I coach, and I try to make every one of their games, and even though I miss some practices, obviously traveling the state, I think it's about making sure you have proper balance and priorities. Because if you're not careful in politics, it's real easy, and a lot of people fall in this trap. It's almost, I call it fake friends. Everybody's saying all these great things about you, all these wonderful things, and that's just not reality. It's one of the reasons I'm a big supporter of term limits. But if you're not careful, you can fall in that trap, and then you lose perspective of what's important. And so I think it's just about making sure that you, obviously keep your relationship with God strong, make time for that, make sure you honor your family, and then, business-wise, I'm fortunate to have a lot of great people that work for us. That's awesome. If I didn't have that, there's no way I could do it. And they're able to run the business when I'm not there. So that's good. That's important.
Well, I definitely think that it's important to have people that can speak life into your situation and, hold you accountable. And, obviously you've got to have that relationship with God. That's something that, we can't have a relationship with Him through other people. Yeah. We can have other people that can hold us accountable to that. But I definitely think that also, timing is important, but also realizing that, God put us here for a purpose and trying to walk that out, while we've got the time to do it, because, who knows if we're going to have tomorrow, but we know that we're here today. And we know that He's called us to make an impact now. And, so it's difficult when you've got a family and you've got a business and you've got other leadership roles that you're involved in to try and navigate all that. But, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to do that in spite of having all these things going on. A lot of people will come up with excuses as to why, they're too busy. Yeah. And the reality is we're all busy. Amen. It is a matter of priority. And, so with that, what would you say to somebody that's out there and, maybe they feel a call to, politics, or they feel a call to a leadership role and they've just got too many things going on? What would you say to that person?
I've got a good person. So the thing I would say to you is this, my belief is this: you've got one life to make a difference. You better make a difference while you're here. And that's ultimately, why I went into ministry. It's why I continue to be involved in our church. And it's why I went into politics. I never had a desire to go into politics. And, it's just, it's funny when, God wants you to do something, you do it. And so, my advice to anyone out there is, if you feel God calling you to do something, obey, right? And go do it. Yeah. And then, and it's, because that's why we're here. We're here on earth to impact people for the kingdom. And, we've got to do that. So.
Awesome.
Well, this is Will Ainsworth. Well, I'm kind of nervous because I don't want to go into politics. Yeah. I don't want to go into
Yeah.
I know it's hard. It's a dog-eat-dog world up there, and I just like to be like my own little cave and just kind of do my thing. But thank you for serving us and serving us in the capacity that you have, and being a light and an example for all of us here in our state, and even stepping up and working towards a higher stand and trying to really make a bigger impact. So for all of you guys out there, if you ever hear anybody, or if you ever hear God say, hey, do something, go and do it, and despite anything that you got going on, and who knows, it could be even greater than you could ever expect. So
one of the things we always talked about in youth ministry, I think applies, really is, what is your God-given ability and what are you passionate about? If you can align those two things, you're gonna. And we used to tell kids in youth ministry that, is that God's given you a purpose. What is that purpose? And then make sure you achieve it while you're here.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. So if you want to visit, or if you want to learn more about him, you can go to www.ainsworthforalabama.com. That's AINSWORTH for Alabama.com. And you can even visit his the Dream Ranch and learn more about his organization there, dreamranch.org. And also, if you want to learn more about us, you can go to our website at www.executiveline.com, and even our Facebook page at Living Life on Purpose.
Be sure to like, comment, and share. We want other people to be encouraged by this message. So please let us know what you liked and pass it on to somebody else.
Have a great day. And be sure to watch us 2 weeks from today.